Awesome. So judges, in front of you, we place a pair of earmuffs, so you can take a hold of those now. And what we'll have you do in one moment is place them over your ears. I'm going to say a few words, and then I'll give you a thumbs up when you can take them off. Go ahead. Yeah. Pull them down. Perfect.
Yep, just go for it.
Just go for it.
Yep, just go for it. There it is.
Awesome. So we're here today to talk to you about our company's sound and how you can help us restore sound to the world and how we can help you amplify your life. So judges, was it hard to hear me? A little bit? A little bit harder than normal?
Can I take a pair home for my wife?
Sure, go ahead. So what we just had you experience is something that 49 million Americans experience every single day, which is hearing loss.
For your wife.
For my wife.
Globally, that number increases to 466 million. And it's projected that by 2050, 1 billion people across the world will be experiencing hearing loss every single day. So hello, my name is Devin Peplow, this is Mavis Tang and Maddie Kingsbury, and we're here today to talk to you about our company, Sound. Our company uses an app to restore sound across the world. We're all passionate about this purpose because we all have somebody in our life that experiences hearing loss, whether that's a grandparent, a friend, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, somebody. But hearing loss isn't something that's just age-related. I, along with so many other youth, were born with hearing loss, and we've had to modify our lives around it. So right now, you're probably wondering, how does an app restore sound? Well, we use it with an algorithm. Up on the screen, you'll see what our app will look like. What our customer would do is they would download the app, and then after that, they could do one of two things. They need to fill out their prescription for what they need to hear again. So they would be able to go into an audiologist and get a hearing test to see what frequencies they need to have amplified or dulled. Or they could use our in-app test that would do the same thing for them. After that, it's all up to the app. And so you just press play, and the app takes in all the sound that's going on around you. It puts it through the algorithm, readjusts the frequencies, and then spits out the perfect sounds that you'll be able to hear again. And you can use it with whatever headphones you already have, whether that's a $5 pair from Walgreens or Beats by Dre, I heard over here, and even AirPods, really anything you already have at home. And we're not only passionate about this because it's able to restore sound across the world, but also because it decreases the chances of getting so many other horrible diseases.
According to studies, there are many dangers and diseases caused by hearing loss, and they range from falling to diabetes, dementia, and depression. Especially with age-related hearing loss, these dangers are even more predominant. In the US alone, there are about 49 million people struggling with hearing loss. However, 78% of them are not using hearing aids because of embarrassment, inaccessibility, or cost. And on the other hand, 83% of the US population own smartphones. And that's where our product comes in. We want to target that group of people who are already using smartphones, but cannot or do not want to purchase traditional hearing aids. Meet Richard. Richard is 50 years old. He's married with 2 kids who are about to go to college. Richard has a decent job that requires a lot of traveling and is currently making $80,000 a year. And currently, Richard is the only source of income of his family. Recently, Richard has been experiencing some hearing loss, but he doesn't want to use traditional hearing aids because he's worried that they might make him look old to his kids and friends. He's always on the road for work, and he doesn't want to wait to get fitted for a pair of hearing aids and have to always carry around extra batteries. And on top of that, it takes about $5,000 to get a pair of decent hearing aids, and his insurance doesn't even cover that cost. With the pressure to pay for both of his kids' tuition, he doesn't want to and honestly can't afford to pay for such expensive hearing aids. However, without any help, Richard often finds himself guessing what other people are saying and struggling to communicate with others. And Richard is not alone. There are so many people like Richard who are in need of a product that can help them hear better. And they're from all walks of life, younger, older, men, women, everyone. However, with sound, they have an option to hear again without worrying about inaccessibility or cost or embarrassment. We do recognize that there are a couple of competitors in our market. For example, people might simply ask you to talk louder or not allowing conversations like Richard did, or try to read your lips. These methods work, but they are just temporary bandages that can only do so much. And traditional hearing aids are also one of our indirect competitors because they essentially serve the same cause, but in a different market with different technologies. And as for our direct competitors, Fenix, Petrolex Hearing Aid, Ear Machine, and Hearing Aid Pro are a couple of the main ones. Some of these apps are offered and marketed as patented technologies, but we've discovered that they only have Russian patents and for technologies that aren't as advanced as ours. And Apple has this feature called Live Listen, which is supposed to amplify sound around you, but doesn't have the necessary hearing aid function, which is what we use, the selective frequency amplification algorithm. This algorithm is one of our competitive advantages that sets us apart in the market. It's a trade secret in the industry, and that's why we don't want to patent our algorithm and put it out for everyone to see, so our competitors can't duplicate it. And with our backgrounds on being entrepreneurs and working for different businesses, our team is equipped to not only restore sound back into the world and amplify your life, but also to empower more women to be in tech and in business. We also have an amazing developer on our team, Dr. Liran Ma, who is an NIH and NSF-funded scientist, and he's the developer of our algorithm. And currently, we're the exclusive licensee of this algorithm, which gives us the freedom to use it however we want. And with his and our connections, we're currently working with the Miller Speech and Hearing Clinic to further test our app on more people.
While we believe in this app to do well in the market and fulfill a significant need, there are several temporary barriers and limitations that the app will incur. The first barrier is audiologists. Apps and over-the-counter solutions pose a significant threat to their profession and disrupt the profitability of their industry. We will overcome this barrier by partnering with audiologists in order to make our app a gateway to hearing aids. The next barrier is our customer acquisition cost, which is currently $160. We will drive this cost down through strategic partnerships with audiologists as well as referrals. This will decrease our cost significantly from a traditional marketing method. The next barrier is that our app needs significant funding. We use our resources and connections in order to overcome this barrier. The developer of our algorithm, Dr. Liran Ma, has already received both NIH and NSF funding, so he's very familiar with the application process. The last barrier is that there are various versions of the Android app, each with a different operating system. And so by hiring a developer, we will be able to adapt the algorithm to these various operating systems, as well as expedite this process. Our customer acquisition strategy includes 3 main approaches. The first approach is these partnerships with audiologists that we previously mentioned. Not only will this drive our customer acquisition costs down, but these audiologists have direct access to our target market. The next strategy is App Store optimization. Not only will our app feature a compelling description with screenshots and videos, but it will also encourage users to rate and review the app through push notifications. This will increase the likelihood that a user not only downloads our app, but actually subscribes to it and pays for it. The last strategy is to increase traffic to our app through promotion. Research shows that the majority of our target market uses Facebook more than anything else, so we will heavily promote on this platform. When looking at our financial structure, the company will incur mainly overhead costs and insignificant costs per unit. Our app will be a subscription-based model for $9.99 per month with your first week free. We came up with $9.99 because this is the average cost of traditional hearing aid batteries per month. In the first 6 months, our company will raise $50,000 in order to develop our minimal viable product. In the second 6 months, we will raise an additional $50,000 in order to further develop and fine-tune our app. The company projects revenue of a little over $116,000 in the first year. Our team has worked to strategically find the most qualified advisors in different areas of expertise. This includes our technical developer, Dr. Liran Ma, our industry expert, Dr. Chris Watts, as well as our business expert, Rodney D'Souza. This past spring, we established our company and developed an LLC. Since then, we have participated in several pitch competitions, applied for both R21 and I-Corp funding, as well as developed and tested an alpha version of our app. By this summer, We will raise $50,000 in order to develop our minimal viable product. By December of 2019, we will launch both our iOS and Android versions of our app.
And so we're here today. We're looking for a total of $50,000 in the next 6 months, but specifically from the $40,000 that we can win from this competition, we can expedite that entire timeline and get our developer hired so we can get that MVP created even sooner. And so we hope that when you're thinking about whether you want to invest in our company, you remember these 3 things. First, our technology is proprietary. It's an industry secret that took years to develop and make lean. It will not be easily duplicated. Second, not only are we passionate about bringing sound back to the world, but we also are passionate about championing other women in the technology industry. And third, there are 500 million people around the world right now that could benefit from this product. And by 2050, that number can double to 1 billion people. So help us get this investment today so that we can invest in all of those people tomorrow. Help us bring sound back to the world so that we can help you amplify your life. Thank you.
Fantastic presentation and idea. And in particular, the trade secret strategy to protect what's uniquely yours and your differentiator is really great. How are you going to communicate that fact to your customers that are looking at several competitors that are quote unquote app-based?
So one thing that's good about our app is we looked at our competitors in the market, like the 4 apps I mentioned before, and the feature that Apple has, Live Listen. They simply amplify everything. So let's say TCU, on campus, we have some construction sites, just like 5 or 6. So in class, when you're paying attention to the professor and construction is happening in the background, if you use our competitor's app, it amplifies everything. So you hear the professor, but also the construction site. But with our app, you can select that certain frequency, so you can just pay attention to the professor or the construction site, whatever you want.
Right, and so that's the essence of my question. How do you communicate the noise canceling component as well as the selective frequency amplification?
So I think that goes into
to the customer.
Yeah, to the customer. I think that goes into our branding and our marketing, and we also have somebody on our team that is working with us for how to portray that to our customers. She's an expert in branding. And so I think that's just going to be one of the things that we have to list as like our top feature. And then one of the other things we wanted to mention is you can also use the app to cut out certain frequencies. So if you only want to hear like the human voice frequency, you can cut out everything above 5,000 and everything below 500. So yeah, just portraying
Fantastic,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Gonna jump in here. Great job, ladies. Really well done. I believe in this space a lot, particularly because there's been a macro shift towards kind of a voice-first way to interact with our devices. The top-selling device last Q4 was the Echo Dot. And you can already see how voice is gonna intercept search, it's gonna intercept commerce, so I like you guys there. You might have heard me earlier kind of bash on mobile apps. I think this is one of those kind of few instances in which the need is so specialized that the gain that you can get is greater than the pain of going through and downloading something. So there's a lot in this business. It's really contingent based on this algorithm. Now, algorithms are, it's a buzzword now, and it can sound like a magic button that you just press, but in reality, as you guys know, it's machine learning. It's continuous feeding this model so it can get more intelligent and get to the point where it's functional. And I view it as a risk that you guys are disconnected from the source of that algorithm. So how do you guys, what's your relationship with the core algorithm? How do you guys interface with it? How can you guys make sure that your data that you're capturing from your customers is being kind of appropriately fed to the model and so forth?
So first of all, we're licensing the algorithm from Dr. Liran Ma, and then once we can get that money to hire our own developers, we'll all be working in the same room to do what needs to go next. And we've had a lot of talks on what that looks like.
And maybe I'm understanding your question wrong, but I want to explain this first. So we do understand that technology is developing daily, if not hourly. And we do see that the future can change a lot, maybe even in the next 5 years. But right now, we want to focus on this algorithm because the majority of our target market needs this, and they cannot afford those expensive hearing aids. And I think this is something that we want to invest in so they can help like a huge amount of people who are out there needing to hear but cannot afford. But I do see that the potential that this algorithm has, and that's why we're licensing this algorithm currently, to gives us a little bit more freedom to explore in the future, maybe if something else comes up.
And if you don't mind me adding on, additionally, when we're working with these developers, we want to make sure that the code is written out very well and explained so that if we do have to switch developers or something like that, it's all written out and we understand the language. So yeah.
If I may, I applaud you for your social impact. This is going to be great. It's something that's needed. But I'm also a big believer in capitalism, and capitalism can solve a whole lot of social issues. Walk me through again the financials. What's the first year, 5-year, long-term projection of the financials as it relates to this, please?
Perfect. So we just handed you these, so she'll be going along with those with
Yes. So we didn't want to project the 3 and 5 year lifetime values just because the app is constantly changing. Our customer acquisition cost is also changing as more and more people know about our app. If it goes viral, we don't want to account for that. So our lifetime value for year 1 is around $250, and our lifetime value for year 2 is around $300. And our customer acquisition costs will be constantly decreasing. So it's around $160 right now, but by year 3, we want it to be around $50, which will be decreased through these referrals from audiologists.
So I'm going to tag on to that because that was one of my questions too in terms of the profitability, not being the profitability until year 3. So tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about, DFW market makes sense in your backyard. Let's pilot it. Let's test it. Move it into Texas. But then all of a sudden, boom, into the U.S. market. Like, walk us through kind of how you're thinking about that, because obviously that drives the revenue line in terms of your ability to be profitable.
So, like you said, we want to start with the DFW market because of our connections. It's based here, and we want to start with who we know. Like, that's why we're working with the Miller Speech and Hearing Clinic. But move along to Texas and then the US. Because it's an app, like, it's easier to communicate that, like the marketing strategies that we have, like audiologists, no other audiologist. If we market on Facebook, the customers we can reach is so far away. And again, these are predictions based on research, current market research, and how our competitors are currently marketing. And that's another thing that I think we do have the advantage of is the partnership with audiologists, and we have contacted a couple of them, and they are interested in it. So I do see a future full of potential.
And also, we're still working on further developing. It's just an alpha version, so we want to start with those 250 customers. It'll be a free version of the app for the time being, just to test it out before we take it much bigger. So we're gonna have various versions coming out. There'll be a first version, and then as we expand.
So very nicely done. You're definitely addressing a real problem. Have you guys tested what the efficacy is? For example, when we had these earmuffs on, we couldn't hear anything. How do we think about the efficacy of the algorithm? Do we hear 50% better? How do we think about actual improvement in the hearing based on the algorithm?
So something we just started to test that is we have an IRB, which will allow us to do research in the Miller Hearing Clinic on campus. And so we're going to test how much better it works than what's currently out. But during that whole process, we want to make sure it's staying safe. Some of our competitors, with just the amplification of everything that they do, with the volume increase of everything they do, that's actually damaging your ear. And so that we want to make sure that while we're developing ours, that we keep it in the safe range so that it is.
So the IRB protocol is set and you guys are ready to go into trials?
We submitted it. There was one submitted back in 2016, and it was approved. And then when we came on board, we wanted to redevelop it a little bit, change the questions so that it's more specific to the climate of the market now. And then we're resubmitting it, this month.
And
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. To add on to that, we've also looked at the quality of sound compared to the other apps that are out there, and it sounds a lot more muffled, underwater. So we're going to look into that as well.
Great. Good job.
Please join me in thanking Texas Christian.